Our nursing students are challenged with a lot of competing priorities when they show up in the classroom. So, what is our responsibility as a nurse educator to ensure that they are connecting the dots and can provide safe patient care whenever they graduate? Well, there's a whole competency dedicated to our responsibility of being an effective change agent and leader. That means that we're putting those changes in place, that we're working through those challenging situations, that we're having those difficult conversations to ensure that we are providing a quality nursing program that is going to equip students with the resources they need, including those clinical skills, to provide high quality patient care. Welcome back, everybody, to Dr. Sellars Educate. If this is the first time you are joining us, we are delighted that you're here. Our mission is simple. It is to support every single nurse educator to achieve excellence in their role and to ultimately achieve certification on the CNE exam. And if you're returning, we're happy that you're back as well. We're going to continue to align our teaching strategies with what the evidence says. So we're aligning that with our competencies that are outlined by NLN and also with some of the regulatory bodies as well. Okay, so when we look at culture and we think about culture, how many of you think about this kind of image? Or maybe you think of this image. Well, I really like this image and I want to talk a little bit more about it. I want you to write down on your study worksheet. Hopefully you all have had a chance to print that out. Every single snapshot, we want you to bring that because you're going to be able to stay focused on the content we cover when you bring that snapshot. So go ahead and write down today's date. If you don't have your study worksheet, just write it on a piece of paper. And then second of all, what is the objective? What is it that you want to accomplish today? Knowing that we're talking about culture, creating an inclusive culture, establishing the delivery of quality patient care in alignment with our curriculum and our clinical experiences. And then just demonstrating and role modeling some of these inclusive behaviors and practices that we want our students to be able to emulate in the clinical setting. All right, so what do you think about when you see this image? What I see. Go ahead and put it in the chat if you are joining us live for this snapshot. I always like to see what your thoughts are in the chat. Okay, and if you're joining us via the podcast, we are open to your email feedback as well, info@drsellarseducate.com. We love hearing from you all and the impact that our snapshots have had on your journey to achieve excellence in the classroom. All right, so let's make this image a little bit bigger. So what is it that you see here? Well, I see a lot of happy faces, right? So the perception is that this is a positive experience that most of the people are having. It looks like kids and animals. And I also see connection, right? Because you see everybody's connected by holding each other's hands. And I see inclusiveness because nobody's standing in the middle. Everybody is equally spread out right around the circle. And there's a sense of belonging because you have the connection. You have seemingly a relationship that is established between these groups of people and pets because they are connected. They are united, right? One mission, one focus, and that is being in this circle right now. So there are lots of I think takeaways that you can gather from this image, lots of assumptions that we can make. And that's what we want to happen when we develop a lesson plan for our students to focus on the delivery, the consistent delivery of quality patient care. In our last snapshot, we talked about lesson plan and the value of lesson plans. And in this snapshot, we're focusing on culture and quality and what that means when we show up in the classroom and how we can influence that. So let's take a look at our thought-provoking question. It's centered around culture, evidence-based practice, and impact. So as a nurse educator, you are integrating the principles of a just culture into your nursing curriculum. Which of the following approaches best exemplifies the role of just culture in nursing education? So we have A, students are counseled for mistakes made during simulation to emphasize the importance of accuracy in patient care. B, focusing primarily on application skills and importance of discussing errors and the factors that lead to them. Or C, encouraging students to openly discuss and reflect on mistakes or near misses to foster a culture of safety and continuous learning. And so you can think about what is the best choice, and make sure you're considering the rationale as well. I know we get excited when we choose the correct option, which is great, but you also want to think about the rationale, okay, for the correct option or the option that you are choosing. All right, let's take another look at an image. What do you see here? What nonverbals do you see being played out in this image? What conclusions or what assumptions can we make from this image? Well, it's a whole lot different than the one that we just saw, right? So what is it that you see? Go ahead and write down a couple of things. What is it that you see? What assumptions can you draw from this picture? And what interventions would you engage in as a nurse educator in the classroom if you observe this? I just finished some compliance training and it took 2 hours. I know every university is different, but with the university I teach for, that was the requirement. And there were a lot of questions about conflict and communication, which we know civility is a critical element when we talk about inclusivity, when we talk about belonging, and so we want to address these behaviors. So what kind of communication do you see going on? What actions would you take as a nurse educator? All right, so if you saw conflict, you're absolutely right. If you saw perhaps some miscommunication, confrontational behavior, certainly. So as an educator, we would want to intervene, right? We would want to mediate following our university guidelines, of course, but we want to make sure that we're promoting civility in the classroom. This certainly doesn't look like it is the most civil conversation, and so perhaps there's an opportunity to coach, to separate the two, to kind of debrief from both perspectives, and to work collaboratively to come to a conclusion of where we can communicate effectively. Jerry Altmiller, this is a Safety and Just Culture and Pre-Licensure Nursing Education, just published in 2024 by Nursing, or in the Nursing Education Perspectives. So what was the highlight? What was the finding? Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I do want to share that the perception of students is that we as nurse educators have a very positive influence on their ability to deliver quality patient care. Okay, so what are those key elements that we want to consider? Well, we know curriculum is a key component of it, and the World Health Organization talks about our responsibility to develop critical inquiry and an ability to conduct research and utilize those findings. So that is the implementation component, right? That's the action behind us not only reviewing the data, but we want to put it into action. We want to apply the findings. We want to make changes, going back to being a change agent and leader, to identify and to solve, right? So we don't stop at just identifying. We want to be part of the solution. So we want to make those changes in educational and practice-based problems. So what strategies can we use in the classroom to ensure that we are taking care of our responsibilities as a nurse educator? Well, first and foremost, we want to be current with what those QSIN standards are. We want to ensure our curriculum is aligned, and we want to look at our regulatory body guidelines. We want to ensure that we are integrating those evidence-based practices into our curriculum and into how we show up in our classroom. The curriculum is, we know, a breathing document, right? We never ever complete revising our curriculum. It's a work in progress always, and we take feedback from our students and their performance, our stakeholders, and we make changes to our curriculum based on that feedback. So one of the key components in the process of looking at how we establish just culture is making sure that we are doing our part, taking responsibility for making those changes, for reading the literature, and being clear about what changes need to happen. Okay, so let's take a look at our thought-provoking question as we wrap up our time together for this snapshot. If you chose C, you are correct. We want to encourage our students to openly have these conversations about mistakes and these near misses. The education component of a nurse's journey, so even if that's structured classroom time, and simulation, of course, is a great strategy to engage students in that hands-on learning experiences, those experiential introductions, right? The experiential experiences actually happen at the bedside. But we do kind of a preview to the hands-on experiences through simulation, through our skills lab. So we want to align our didactic content with those clinical skills, focusing on the application and analysis level in a way that's going to allow students to make those independent decisions upon graduation of what steps to follow to ensure that they are developing or providing the best patient care. And it is a developmental process. We never stop learning, right? Think about the Knoll's adult learning theory that says that we are a lifelong learner, right? It's a continuous process. Even with this research that we looked at earlier, or that I introduced earlier with from Jerry Altmiller, you want to take a look, knowing that this is new data that is published. Again, there are no major aha moments. I just really appreciate seeing current literature about the impact that we can have in nursing education in providing quality patient care. All right, so let's take a look at what one of our colleagues had to say. You can see here that Dr. Singh actually reported on January 1st that she was successful on the CNE exam. She talks about how challenging it was, and that's the message for this snapshot as well. We want to make sure that you are fully preparing yourself for the CNE exam if that's part of your journey. If it's not, make sure you're fully preparing to show up, integrating evidence-based practices into your classroom setting or your clinical or your skills lab setting every single opportunity that we have with our students. Okay, so this is going to wrap up our snapshot for this episode, and we hope that this has been helpful. We look forward to seeing you soon. Reach out if you have questions, info@drsellarseducate.com. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.